All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's jump into it. We have 13 and 14. I was doing these one at a time, but I figure these two are both pretty similar, and they're not asking for information that's too complicated. Oh, need to plug it in. Give me a second. Your battery's low. Your health is low. We don't have too much to do to solve these, and they're solved the same way since they're asking the same question. So yeah, we'll do the end behavior second since the y-intercept is even easier than determining the end behavior. The y-intercept is whatever the constant is. So the y-intercept of this graph is the constant, but notice every term here has an x in it. So the constant would be 0, which means the y-intercept is 0. All right. For the other one, same thing. We're looking for the constant term, which this time it does have a constant term. It's 9. So the y-intercept would be 0, 9. Right? Now, you can always do it the old-fashioned way by plugging in 0 for x, but as you can see, it's just going to end up being the same thing, because 0 to any power is 0, and 0 times anything is 0, 0 plus anything is 0 plus any amount of other zeros, it just turns into zeros, and then it's plus 9 for number 13 and plus nothing for 14. You just get 0 for 14. So that brings us to end behaviors. There's basically 4 different end behaviors of any polynomial. So I'm going to write this over here, polynomial, so polynomial and end behavior. I'm not going to be able to fit that in without moving it, so I'm just going to put BEH, beh. So there's 2 different things to look for. You have the leading coefficient. So the lead coefficient, and the leading coefficient is either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. Okay, so for instance, the leading coefficient here is negative because that's the highest, it's connected to the highest power, and the leading coefficient here is positive. You have to make sure that they're in order, and both of these are in order. We have x to the 30, then x to the 12, x to the 7, and then a constant. For number 14, we have x5, x3, x2, and nothing. So they're all in order. If they're not, you want to put them in order first. That way you don't get anything mixed up. So the leading coefficient is always either going to be a positive number or a negative number. It can't be 0 because then it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be a leading coefficient. So it's either positive or negative. And then as far as the other part has to do with the degree itself. So I'm listing the leading coefficient first, just because that was the first thing that came to mind. You can look for the degree of the function and then the leading coefficient, or you can look at the leading coefficient and then the degree. It might actually be better to confirm the degree and then look for the leading coefficient, because the leading coefficient is going to be the number that's multiplied by the x with the largest power. So if they aren't in order, then you would need to find out which x has the highest power first anyways, out of all the ones that are listed. So the degree is either going to be an even number or an odd number. It's not going to be negative because we're talking about polynomials, so it's always going to be a positive number. So the degree is always going to be either even or odd. So it's going to be even. Let's try that again. Even or odd. Okay, so here's how to remember the 4 different options. You can just memorize the chart, or eventually you could just have them memorized. Ultimately, that's the best possible scenario. But here's how you can remember the end behaviors. All right, so a positive person will always end things on a positive note. A negative person will always end things on a negative note. Okay, positive people can always spin things around and make them positive in the end. And negative people, no matter how good things are, they can always find the negativity in it all in the end. So positive people, right side behavior goes up. Negative people, right side behavior goes down. right? And that might have been mirrored, so you get what I mean. Even versus odd. So an even person tries to stay the same all the time. They're always positive or they're always negative, right? So their emotions are not all over the place, right? So an even positive person would be somebody who's positive all the time. And an even negative person is that one old grouchy lady that you run into at the grocery store every now and then, who's just seems like she's always sour. And then you have odd. So odd would be maybe if you're not always the same person, and not to make light of any kind of mental disorders or anything, but an example of this might be like if you have, oh gosh, I just lost it. What's that called? Bipolar. If you're bipolar, right, you might have like manic or depressive episodes. So even if normally you're a pretty positive person, you might start out negative and then end up positive. Or vice versa, if you're a pretty negative person most of the time, then you might start out positive, but then you end up negative because that's overall your personality. And there you go. So an even person, they're up, up, or down, down. Odd people are different. You know, it's either up, down, or down, up. And then if you're positive, you end on a positive note, negative, end on a negative note. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. Let's go ahead and finish out the question here. Determine the end behavior. Well, we have, let's do this. So it's, the degree is an even number. Right, so for the number 13, the degree is even, and the leading coefficient is negative. So this is the end behavior for number 13. Now you could just put that there, but if they want you to write it a little bit more formally, you could say something like the limit as x goes to infinity of f of x, can you still see that? Is infinity. Or sorry, negative infinity. Negative infinity. And then alternatively, you could say the limit as x goes to negative infinity, meaning it's going to the left. Wait, I'm pointing right. There we go. It is mirrored. Haha. Okay, as x is going to the left, y is going down also. So that would be a little bit more of a formal way to do it. I don't know how your teacher is going to want you to write the question, but these are a couple different ways that you could write the answer. So for number 14, the degree is odd. It's a 5. And it's positive. So odd and positive would be this one. Right? So that's going to be down and up. Or if you wanted to write it as a limit, I'll write it over here. That would be the limit as x goes to positive infinity. So as x goes to the right, y goes up. And then as x goes to the left, y goes down. Right, so that's a little bit more of a formal way to do it. You guys might also just put like x arrow infinity, y arrow, or f of x arrow. There's a couple different ways I've seen of people writing these, but hopefully that's helpful. Let me know in the comments below if your teacher writes it a different way, and maybe if you just kind of describe how they write it, I can maybe explain it a little better, and I can maybe just, you know, put it in another video of like how to write the end behavior several different ways, because there's like 5 different ways to do it. I don't know why there's that many ways, but there are, so it is what it is. Hopefully that's helpful, and yeah, you know, all the things, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And then my website, Myers Mathematics, you can go check that out, where you can look at getting tutoring, or because I also have my email in the description below, you can email me and get tutoring, or on my website, Myers Mathematics, you can download my free PDF called The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. All right, catch you in the next video soon. Blessings.